Hello everyone, my name is Khushi Mahesh Pulpagar and my today's topic is Core Java Spring Data JPA. So let's discuss. Spring Data JPA is a part of a larger Spring data family that simplifies data access and manipulating by providing framework for managing JPA. JPA full form is Java Precedence API based responsible. It's eliminate much of the required with a database, making it easier to implement data access layer in Spring application. So the guides of Explorer Spring Data JPA from its core features and a setup advice functionality and the best practice. So the what is a Spring Data JPA core concept of a responsibility entities, JPQLs and Creatial API. Next is a setups and a configuration, their dependency and their configurations and respiratory types and types of features and a code repository. There is a Spring repository JPA repository. Next is a query method. Query method is a divide query by a customs query with @ query. Next is a name query. Name query. There is a relationships one to many, one to one, one to many, many to many. Next is a transaction management. Transaction management. Next is a predictions and sorting. Next is a adulting. Next is a specifications and criteria queries. Next is performance optimizations. Performance optimization. Next is a error handling. Next is a best practice, and last discuss is a conclusion. So let's discuss is a what is a spring data spring sorry what is a Spring Data JPA. So the Spring Data JPA is a sub project of a Spring Data designed of a simplify the implementations of a JPA based repository. It's built on a JPA, the standards API for managing relational data in a Java applications, and offer an abstraction over the underlying database technology. Their key feature is a simplified repository interface, is a automatic query to generate two generations from a method to generations from a method names of integrations with a Spring Boots to a seminal configurations, and a support to JPQL Java Precise Query language, and a native SQL query. So built-in a support for sortings and adulting. So the next is core concept. Core concept is a repository are a interface that provide the code operations for entities. Spring Data JPA offers several types of repository interface, such a code repository, JPA repository, and a paging and sorting repository. So their entity is a represent the database tables. They are automated with at the rate entity and a typical have field map to a confuse using JPA or on it annotations like a at the rate column, at the rate ID, and the at the rate a general value. So a JPQL and a criteria API is a JPQL is a query language similar to SQL, but operators like a entity object rather than database tables. The criteria API provides to programmatic way to create dynamic query. So next is a setups and a configuration dependency. So to use the Spring Data JPA and the following dependency to your pom.xml for a Maven. So dependency is a group ID org sp right framework body group ID effective uh, boot start data DPCNC group ID and a artifact to a scopes and the scope DPCNC. DPCNC is created to that way, so their configuration is a Spring Boot automatically configure Spring Data JPA lives of a JPA provider. Example: Hibernate is a presence on the class path common configuration properties in application property. So the Spring Data source is URL is equal to JDB and a Spring database username ME is equal to S. So Spring data source is a password Spring JPA show is equal SQL is equal to true. Spring JPA is equals to update. There are some queries. So repository types and a feature. Spring Data JPI provides server repository interface, and a CURD repository is a provide base CURD operation. So the public interface is a user repository extends CURD repository use long. So this is my today's topic. Thank you.